Hello everyone, welcome to this session. My name is Deng. I am Product Manager for SAP Analytics Cloud. So today my topic is to give you a session about overview and show you the highlight of Analytics Designer for SAP Analytics Cloud. So now let's have a look into what we have today on the agenda. First, I would like to give you a brief introduction about the Analytics Designer. So what is Analytic Designer? So what kind of high capability do we have? And after that, I would like to introduce different use cases you can use Analytic Designer to cover. And the third agenda point is that I would like to demonstrate the product highlights and give you different live demos. And at the end, we can have a short look into the roadmap, what we are planning ahead. So first, let's go to the chapter, Introduction. So what we can do, what is Analytics Designer? In front of you, you are see a slide that demonstrates SAP Analytics Cloud. You see here. Within this SAP Analytics Cloud, we have different features. So we have business intelligence features that you can do your ad hoc analysis to build your charts, build your tables, and also reporting scenario. We have augmented analytics that will help you to do some smart capabilities, smart insight, smart discoveries, and we also have planning capabilities. And these different capabilities are based on the different data sources. Here within SAP Analytics Cloud, we are supporting on-premise data sources like BW, like HANA, and we also support hybrid data sources and also pure cloud data sources. Based on different data connections, based on different capabilities, we have different artifacts that will help you to cover your business scenario. So we have digital boardroom that you have basically a great representation for your board meetings, and you have big screen to interact with those artifacts. We have Analytics Hub that as a central access to access different artifacts for SAC. And we have Analytic Designer that within Analytic Designer we use as the artifacts. We can combine different capabilities to build enterprise dashboards or analytical applications. And of course, we also have mobile pieces. So today we are concentrating on the Analytical Designer. So Analytic Designer is an artifact within SAP Analytics Cloud. With Analytic Designer, using different capabilities, you will be able to create a very dedicated and intuitive, good look and feel of dashboards and also analytical applications. Now let's get into the slide of which kind of high-level capability do we have for this analytical designer. As I mentioned before, Analytic Designer is sitting on the SAP Analytics Cloud as a platform. So there we leverage all of the existing capabilities like data connections, BI capability, planning capability, and also predictive capabilities. And we have an agile development environment. Within this environment, we will be very able to do drag and drop and also to create your dashboards or analytical applications. As an end result of analytical applications, we can guide user and adjust widgets behavior based on their expectations. So here we have different capability like customizing. You can use Analytics Designer to customize different behavior of your widgets and also different interactions between your widgets, between your tab strip, and between within different applications. We have integration embedding capabilities that you can embed or integrate analytical application into a third-party applications, or you can integrate planning applications and also the augmented capabilities, smart functionalities into Analytic Designer. We have extending capabilities that you can use customer widget to build your own visualizations and then reuse in all applications. We also have the reuse capabilities that planning to ship that reuse capabilities, like you can create templates, create composites, and you create ones and reuse in all other applications. And analytical applications are already available with a content network that we can ship the analytic applications within the content network, and also analytical application can be consumed on mobile devices and also within the SAC mobile app. So that's the key capability of analytical application. So if I summarize in a short summary, with Analytic Designer is a low-code development environment within SAP Analytics Cloud. Within this environment, you will be able to using different technologies like scripting, like CSS, and also integrate existing capability from SAC like planning, like smart functions. And finally, to create a very intuitive, customized analytical applications, planning applications, and also dashboards. So that's what you can do with Analytic Designer. Then let's have a look into the different use cases. So which kind of use cases you can use Analytic Designer to cover. First, the very typical use cases is a generic application like Data Analyzer or SAP Lumira for the slide size analysis. If you are aware of Lumira generic analysis or Beck's web template, and you know there the application is more served for table-based, table-centric slide size analysis, and also add or remove dimension key figure into the tables, and also you can basically to do the filtering using the context menu and using the filter to do the very intuitive analysis. So for this kind of ad hoc analysis, table-centric slide size analysis, you can use Analytic Designer to cover. And we have the nav panel, we have the table, which will be able to cover this kind of table-centric slide size analysis. So that's the first typical use cases. Here, I would like to introduce the second use case of Analytic Designer. So with Analytic Designer, you will be able to build guided analytical applications. So here we know from the SAP Analytics Cloud, you can build a self-service use cases using the artifacts story. And you with Analytic Designer, you can build a guided analytical applications. Guided analytical applications means that you provide a certain guided analytical paths to your end users. That means with analytical design capability that you can notify for your end user, for example, something goes wrong, and then the end user can get into the dashboards or analytical applications, and then end user can, with the guide, provide the guide analytical process to analyze different situation, and finally do some simulation, and finally also take the action. So take typical scenario, we can make an example. For example, we see that so the margin is basically the planned margin is goes down for the next month, and then you find out after analyze your dashboard, you find out, oh, that's because of your vendor, the price is go up. And then you can simulate how about if you choose different vendor, and what does it means for your margin. And then you decided after simulation, oh, vendor B looks quite good because the vendor B's price is very nice. And then you can decide to switch vendor, and that's taken action. That means Analytic Designer provides the capability that you can trigger an or data action in your back end to, for example, exactly switch the supplier, switch the vendor. And the advantage of this guided analytical application is that end user don't need to really monitor his dashboard every day, and he will get notified about critical situation. And if the critical situation is there, and with the provided analytical parts, and he can very quickly efficient to find a solution to solve that issue. So that's a typical, we call that closed loop scenario. With analytical designer, you will be able to provide your end user with this closed loop scenario to help them to analyze their business scenario in more efficient way. The next use case would be that the typical dashboarding scenario that we know sometimes we really get the complex dashboarding layout scenario that in dashboard including the navigation, including the interaction, and also including the whole responsive stuff. If you deploy to different devices, the layout should be automatically adjusted, and also you want to have more flexible look and the feel and so on. For all of these typical requirement, you can use Analytic Designer to cover because we have a responsive container, we have CSS capabilities that will help you to create a visual attractive analytical applications or dashboards. The fourth scenario is that planning applications. With Analytical Designer, you will be able to customize your planning workflow, and you can exactly based on your planning users' requirements to provide the user interfaces. For example, if your planning users don't want to plan based on the table, they want to plan use a pop-up and using a slider to enter their planned number. You can use Analytic Designer to do that, to create a pop-up using a slider, enable the end user basically to plan that, click OK, and then the planning part is done. And if your planning user say, I don't want to click different buttons to publish my version, please provide me a simple text or button and I can directly publish my private version to the public version. And then you can do means use Analytic Designer, create a button and write a script behind it. And then you will be able to provide these user interfaces to your planning end users to provide them a very convenient way to do their planning workflow and also a customized way to do their planning workflow. And another typical use case is more in the embedding, also extending area. With analytical application, you can very easily embed analytical application into some third-party solutions. For example, you create an HTML5 page here, and you want to, if click on this button analytics, then analytical designer application should be embedded here. So you have a very convenient way to embed analytical application into a third-party solutions. And also, and once you embedded it, you can to do the communication between analytical application and also the third-party solutions. So you can send information from analytic app to third-party app, or from third-party app information sent to the analytic app. So this both direction communication is also supported for the embedding scenario. And extending, so use the analytical custom widget of the analytical applications. You can create the visualizations as you want. You can create a date picker. You can create a speedometer. You can create some airport plan, or you can create like here 3D parking houses for the electricity bike. So this kind of different customized custom widgets or different visualizations, you can use Analytic Designer SDK to create it. So once created it, this custom widgets can be used in analytical application, can also interact with different tables and charts and so on. So that's also the typical uses cases. Use Analytic Designer, you can cover integration and also extending. The next typical use cases is the templates or composites. Currently, this feature is not yet available with Analytic Designer, but we do see that's a very important features and the concept that we are planning in our roadmap. So the idea is that we will enable analytical designer to create reusable parts. This could be an application header, this could be a navigation block, this could be also an entire template. So the analytic designer create for once, and these widgets or reusable parts can be stored in the SAC, and then these reusable parts can be reused in all other analytical applications. And the advantage is definitely that once you want to adjust something, for example, add another button in the header, you don't want to go through your 100 applications to do that. You only want to add that in this particular header at once, and then all the applications are leverage this header will be automatically get this change. So with this concept, it will extremely speed up your creation time and reduce your creation effort, and also reduce your change management cost. So that we also consider absolute and enterprise aspect, absolute and enterprise use cases we want to cover with the analytic designer. That's the templates and the composites. And these capabilities is planned for the future releases. So that's the 6 typical use cases that we are you can use the analytic designer to cover. So here, let's have a look into the product highlights and also the live demos. Analytic design is already delivered to customer since end of 2018. So we delivered different basic capabilities in 2019 and also early this year. And so there you already get basic stuff like container widget and basic scripting part, and also basically the widgets positioning, so different stuff. With the Q3 and the Q4 QRC releases, we are delivering different enhancements like integration with the SAC mobile app. And also we have the new widgets, different new widgets you can use that to build your analytical applications. We are delivering the navigation panel that you can to do your ad hoc analysis very conveniently for the table-based centric slide size analysis. We are delivering the CSS-like theme, and that you will be able to further to influence the look and feel of your analytical applications. And we also are delivering the flow panel as a container widget to enable you to build responsive scenarios without write any codes. And in addition, we also have the PDF enhancements, filter line enhancements, and we are providing the data change insights capabilities as a beta program. And in addition, we have the performance improvements, and we have also the integration with the SAP Data Warehouse Cloud solution, means you can use the analytic designer as the front end and connect to your data warehouse data set and to create your analytical applications. So that's the Q3 and the Q4 highlights. And now I would like to show you the live demos in the live system. First, I would like to show you the integration with the SAC mobile iOS app. Here you can see I'm opening a mobile iOS app. There's different tabs. Here is notification. You can see also different notifications are sending to the iOS app. And then I can back into my analytical applications, open that. So now I'm opening analytical application within SAC iOS app. You see that margin on the left side key figure, and we see also table basically here on the right side. And you can use the annotation capability in the SAC mobile app to make a screenshot and also to write your comments on there. And then we can click this share and to click on that and to share this application with others. And then we can also have some click on this refresh button to refresh this application within SAC iOS app. Then have a look into that. We can click to different products like a cupcake and also the croissant. You see the look and the feel has changed for different product. Here we are using the CSS capability to influence the look and the feel at the runtime of this application. So it depends on the product that is user basically selecting, and we can have different look and feel for the whole application. That's the power of the CSS capability. And the DCSS capability is, of course, also working for the mobile devices. So here I click to different products, and you have the different look and feel. The table, the font size look different, and the background color look different, and that you will be able to do that. Now let's have a look back to all. And we have seen that the application on the mobile devices, and now have a look into other capabilities, what you can do with Analytic Designer. So first I get an alert, so because margin is in red, and I can click go to proposals. So here is an example of a guided analytical application. And I get an alert, margin is goes down, and the app provide me different options. So the first option is a change vendors. So here I can see would like to change for the butter to different vendor using the drop down boxes. So here I select two different vendor, for example, and then we can see immediately the simulated margin has been changed. So here we are using the scripting capabilities to do the what if simulation. So how about if you change your vendor, how it will affect your simulated margin? The second option is now on the iPad, we can just using the swipe to the next page. It basically shows the information change production plan as the second option. And here with the change production plan as a second option to solve the issue. And here we have a slider, and we change the croissant to 200, and we see the simulated working time is in red area. So now I can say I need to the croissant for the 200, and let the system suggest me what's the best production quantity. We see the donut quantity goes down, and then we have 7% simulated margin, and also the simulated working time is also fine. And also I can always on the iPad to scroll down to see all of the different informations. Here we see the charts, and then now we can basically publish this solution to the public planning information using that button. And then we see the margin for the planning capability basically is go to green area. Now let's have a look into the other example that's from Analytical Designer created a table-centric slide size analysis. First, I'm getting to the data select browser to select the data model I want to analyze. I select PM cells, that's a BW Live model. So I select it using this data browser. PM cells. And then what I have done basically in the runtime, I have set this data model as a data source for my analytical application. So here's a mandatory variable popping up. So I see basically this BW live data model information. Here I'm using the designer panel. Here I can remove the key figure, only leave the net value in static currency. And I want to add a calendar months into columns, and then you see it also in the table, and I can also select a different hierarchy for the calendar months, and here I choosing basically the hierarchy year, quarter, months. So here we are supporting all of the BW hierarchies using the analytical design capability. You see that in the table now is basically displayed hierarchical information. So I close this navigation panel, want to further analyze this more, and go to the setting dialog. And within the setting, I'm able to set the decimal places, a scalar format for different key figure. So you see net value statics currency, decimal place is 0 here. And you see the table updated, right, with the decimal place is 0, and also set to the scalar unit to 1000. We see the update in the tables. And we can also choose different dimensions and also set different hierarchy level. For example, I want to set hierarchy level 2 or to 1. You see that's only see the first level of hierarchy, and then we also can set the hierarchy level to the 3. So here also you have the scripting capabilities to change the settings of your table. Now let's have a look into the filter area. So in this filter bar can be basically open or closed, and I start to use a pulse refresh capability. Using the pulse refresh capabilities, I'm able to first to do a bunch of actions, and finally at the end I can update this table. So here I can set to the different dimension values, and you don't see any change on the table. And once I have done that, and then I will be able to finally click this pulse refresh button, and we will be able to see the table will update it at once. So here we again select a different time period, okay. And then you see now click on pulse refresh, the table getting updated. And here will help you that the table should not always update it, only if you want that table updated, you are using that. Here we're using the pulse refresh API to do that. After that, you can do the bookmark part, and you can save the current view as a public or private bookmark, and it depends on how you would like to let others to see this bookmark or not. Here I'm saving a public bookmark, means are the persons who has authorization to this bookmark to this, then it will be able to see that, and that's a bookmark part. And you see all these different functionalities are done by the scripting capability. At the end, you can also add the model ID as a URL parameter to dynamically set the model ID basically as the data sources. So here you see it work. With this demo, I would like to demonstrate the design time of analytical applications and also show you how you can use the design time to create an easy applications. So what you see on the left side is an outline area, and you can insert chart on a table and also even more widgets that you can currently see on the screen. And we also you can add the custom widgets. And then we can see that that's a flow panel. So that's a container widget that you can build your responsive scenarios. So here we see that build panel and starting panel. In the build panel, you can define different breakpoints, and in the design time you have the preview to see how, based on the breakpoints, how your responsive scenario could look like. So that's the iPhone X, and then we switch to the iPad, and then we see it exactly meets the rules that we defined for the breakpoints that here. Now we can switch to the autos. Basically, auto means depends on the screen width, it will adjust the responsive scenario. And now we save just what we have already defined for this breakpoint rules and go to the runtime of this analytical application. Here, that's exactly the screen width for the auto, and then we can use the F and F12 to simulate how it looks like on the iPad and also how it looks like on the different devices. So the runtime view is basically the same like what you have already seen in the design time in the preview. That means developer can already in the preview, in design time preview, to check their breakpoint rules, whether it meets their business scenarios. Now we need to identify the interactions between this slider and also the charts and the table. So here we want to move the slider, and based on the discount percentage and the calculated key figure, discounted price should be calculated for the chart and for the table. So for the onSlider, we define onClick event. Here what you see is a subset of the JavaScript. Use the control space, you will get the help from the system to help you to write this kind of statement. So here we want to set the discount percent using the value that coming from the slider. And now we can save the application after we write this simple line code. And we go to the runtime basically. Again, refresh our applications.
And now we can move the slider. You see, once I move the slider, the calculated price will be changed accordingly. So more percent that I give, the discounted price will be lower. So that means the interaction is done via this one simple line code. Now we would like to pass the parameter from the URL to the discount percent. So what we need to do is to identify an on-init event for this analytical application. This on-init event, we need to guarantee that the slider get the discount percent value. So we said slider should set the value, and this value should coming from the script variable discount percent. So that's why we need to write this line, one line of code. And now we can have a look into discount percent and save the analytical applications. And we go to the runtime again of this analytical application and to add the variable for this script URL parameter. There I'm basically writing the p underscore discount underscore percent is, for example, I'm setting for a certain value in the URL parameter. Here I've set to the 50%. You see this slider is getting the URL parameter from the URL, and then the discounted price will be adjusted accordingly. So next I would like to assign this application to different theme. And we have assigned to different theme here. I can click that, and that's a black theme. You see the application will change automatically the look and feel. So that's the first step. So the next step is I want to do furthermore using some CSS capability. I'm writing, say I want to change the table look and feel. I add one line CSS line, and in this CSS line, I'm using a called CSS class my theme. So I need to assign the my theme to the canvas. So once I assign this CSS class, you see the table part has been changed because this dimension header cell has a background of the yellow. So now I can save my analytical applications to look at in the runtime. So here you will see we can influence the analytical application using the theming capability and also in using the advanced CSS capability. So we'll see a black background and also with a table with a yellow background for the dimension header cell.
Now let's have a look into the roadmap. So I show you the different demos for different capabilities, like the mobile demos to show you integration with the iOS mobile app, and also show you the generic app for the table-centric slide size analysis. So basically, that's what we have in the Q3 and the Q4 here on the roadmap part. And what we are planning on the future is that definitely the further enhancement for the mobile support means we also would like to deliver the Android app solution integration with the analytics app, and also the digital bathroom integrations, blending support, and also for the generic analysis, we will add more capabilities to the generic analysis scenario. And very important on the customer widget part that we are also planning to different extensions for the customer widget part. And also very important, I mentioned already in the beginning of my presentation, composites, templates, absolute enterprise scenario. We want to also support that with the future releases, and also different advanced exporting capabilities, geo map enhancements, and also different designer productivity features that are all planned for the future releases. So that's basically the today session for highlight of the analytic designer. And thank you very much for your attention, also listening. And my name is Deng, and thank you.
Woo!